Sign 1. You have no idea what you spent last month. Ask yourself right now, without opening an app, how much you spent last month. If you cannot answer within a couple $100, this is sign number 1. Most people know their salary down to the exact dollar because it gets deposited automatically, but they could not tell you where a third of that money actually went. It disappears into small purchases that never feel significant in the moment. A coffee here, a subscription there, a delivery order because cooking felt like too much effort that night. None of these choices are wrong on their own. The problem is not knowing the total. You cannot fix a leak you refuse to look for, and the people who build real wealth are not the ones who never spend money. They are the ones who always know exactly where it went. Keep that number in your head, because the next sign builds directly on top of it. Sign 2. You have never calculated your net worth. Here is a simple test. Do you know your net worth right now, meaning everything you own minus everything you owe, as one actual number? Most people have never sat down and calculated this even once in their entire adult life. They track their salary, they track their credit score, they almost never track the one number that actually tells them whether they are getting richer or quietly going backward. Your salary can grow every single year while your net worth stays completely flat or even shrinks if your spending and your debt grow just as fast. Net worth is the real scoreboard. Everything else is just noise that feels important because it changes every month. Sign 3. You think a tax refund is free money. If a tax refund feels like a bonus to you, this is a sign worth paying attention to. A refund is not a gift from the government. It is your own money that was taken out of your paycheck all year and held with zero interest, then handed back to you later. People who celebrate a large refund are often the same people who could have had that money working for them in a high-yield savings account or an investment all year long instead. This single misunderstanding costs some households thousands of dollars in lost growth every single year, and almost nobody realizes it is happening because the refund feels like winning instead of what it actually is, which is simply getting your own money back late. Stay with me, because the next one might be the most expensive habit on this entire list. Sign 4. You only pay the minimum on your credit card. Paying only the minimum due every month feels responsible because technically you're not missing a payment. It is actually one of the most financially destructive habits a person can develop. Credit card interest compounds against you, not for you, and minimum payments are calculated specifically to keep you in debt for as long as legally possible while maximizing the interest you pay. A balance of $5,000 at a typical credit card interest rate, paid only at the minimum, can take well over a decade to disappear and can end up costing thousands of dollars in interest alone, sometimes more than the original purchase itself. If minimum payments are your normal routine, your money is not working for you anymore. It is working for the bank that issued the card. Sign 5. You do not know the difference between an asset and a liability. Ask yourself honestly whether you can explain in one sentence the actual difference between an asset and a liability. Not the textbook definition, the real one. An asset puts money into your pocket over time. A liability takes money out of your pocket over time. No matter how nice it looks sitting in your driveway, a car depreciates the moment you drive it off the lot and continues costing you in insurance, gas, and repairs for as long as you own it. A home you live in feels like an asset, but functions like a liability until the day you either sell it or rent it out for income. People without this distinction spend their entire lives accumulating things that quietly drain them, while believing they are building wealth the whole time. Sign 6. You have no emergency fund at all. If your car broke down tomorrow or you lost your job with zero warning, could you cover 3 months of expenses without touching a credit card? If the honest answer is no, this is one of the clearest signs of financial illiteracy there is, and it has nothing to do with how much you earn. People making 6 figures get wiped out by a single emergency just as often as people making far less, because income was never the missing piece. The missing piece was a system. An emergency fund is not about being paranoid. It is about removing the one event that could otherwise turn a bad month into years of recovery. One more thing before we finish this list, because the final sign is the one that quietly explains almost all the others. Sign 7. You confuse a high income with being good with money. This is the sign that traps the most people, because it feels like the opposite of financial illiteracy. Someone earning a large salary assumes that number alone proves they understand money. In reality, income and financial literacy have almost nothing to do with each other. Plenty of high earners live paycheck to paycheck because their spending simply rises every single time their income does, a pattern known as lifestyle inflation. Meanwhile, someone earning a modest, steady salary who actually understands saving, investing, and avoiding debt can end up with a far larger net worth over 20 years. A big paycheck can hide bad habits for a while. It cannot fix them, and eventually the math always catches up. Sign 8. You have never read your own loan or card agreement. Most people sign mortgage documents, auto loan paperwork, and credit card agreements without ever reading the actual terms, trusting that the numbers on the monthly statement tell the whole story. Buried inside those documents are details that quietly cost people thousands of dollars. Things like variable interest rates that can climb without warning, prepayment penalties that punish you for paying off debt early, and annual fees that renew automatically every single year, whether you use the product or not. Financial literacy is not just about earning and saving. It is about understanding exactly what you agreed to before you signed your name, because the fine print is where most of the real damage quietly happens. Let this next one sink in for a moment, because it changes how you should think about every purchase from here forward. Sign 9. You measure purchases by monthly payment instead of total cost. If the first question you ask about a car, a phone, or a piece of furniture is whether you can afford the monthly payment rather than the total price, this is a habit worth examining closely. Retailers and lenders know that a low monthly number feels painless even when the total cost, stretched out with interest and fees, ends up far higher than the sticker price ever suggested. A car advertised at a comfortable monthly payment over 7 years can end up costing thousands more than the same car paid off in 3, simply because of how the interest accumulates over that extra time. Thinking in monthly payments instead of total cost is exactly how otherwise careful people end up drowning in debt they never intended to take on. If you recognized yourself in 2 or 3 of these signs, you are not alone, and you are definitely not broken. You simply never learned this the way you learned math or reading in school. Financial literacy is not an inborn talent. It is a skill, and every single one of these signs can be reversed starting with one decision. Track where your money actually goes for 30 days. Calculate your real net worth today, even if the number is uncomfortable, Build a small emergency fund before you build anything else. Read the fine print on the next agreement you sign and start thinking in total cost instead of monthly payment for every major purchase from here forward. None of this requires a finance degree or a high income. It only requires the willingness to finally look at the numbers you have been avoiding. The people who end up wealthy later in life are rarely the ones who started the smartest. They are simply the ones who stopped avoiding the truth the earliest. And that decision starts today, not someday.